What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're talking about my 5 running back trade targets that I'm targeting in all my Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. Let's go! My first player we're going to be talking about today is Breece Hall. Now you're going to be saying, Caleb, Breece Hall's expensive. Breece Hall hasn't lost any value even after his ACL injury. And I will tell you, I agree. Breece Hall hasn't lost any value. But the thing with Breece Hall that we have to realize is Breece Hall was a dog in the first few games that he was playing this last season before he tore that ACL. He still is RB2. So you are having to pay top 20 dynasty asset prices to get a guy who's recovering from an ACL. Now for me, there's 2 ways that I'm handling this. And this is my strategy when I'm talking about Breece Hall. Number 1, if you go to the owner and he's not willing to trade with you, then we are waiting until week 2, week 3 of the season. Keep that same exact offer that you had for Breece Hall that you thought was fair and just wait until he has 2-3 really bad weeks. Because as we know, year 2 after the ACL is always the year that we want a running back. Now, Breece Hall's camp, all reports are really super positive that Breece Hall is going to be recovered and is going to be ready to go by week 1. But like we know, even if you're ready to go, it doesn't mean that you're going to be ready to perform at a high-end fantasy football level. And especially for a lot of people holding Breece Hall, they are relying on Breece Hall to help them win their Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. And if all of a sudden they're looking at Breece Hall after he's had 2 or 3 bad weeks, come on. We're going to be going to buy him. I'm trying to buy him now, but if you can't buy him now, I would not try to go offer a mega offer for him. I would wait until week 2 or week 3 to go in on my Breece Hall shares. My second player that I'm currently looking to buy everywhere right now is Saquon Barkley. I feel like there's not enough talk happening about Saquon Barkley because I've talked to a few owners where they're like, I'm a little bit worried about him holding out. And I'm also a little bit worried about his age. But if we remember, Saquon Barkley is essentially who Bijan Robinson was this year, where he's this generational type running back prospect coming out. His first year in the NFL, put up 24 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB3. Second season, only played 13 games, 18.8 fantasy points per game. And then of course, that 2020 season where he tears his ACL, only 7 fantasy points per game because he only played in 2 games. The first year back off that ACL injury, 11.4 fantasy points per game. But then this last year rebounded to that 17.8 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB5 on a fantasy points per game basis. What are we looking at this year? So I know they franchise tagged him, so a lot of people are worried about that. He is 26 years old. So he is getting to that point if you're like, well, he is getting toward that age cliff. But if we look at his production with almost missing an entire season, he is missing that entire carry threshold on his body. So if we actually look at Saquon Barkley, and this is how I tend to do it when we have an injury like this, Saquon Barkley is more in that 25-year-old range of a running back based on his touches, based on his work usage. So I'm super excited for Saquon Barkley, and I'm trying to trade for him everywhere. Currently on Keep Trade Cut, he is the RB6. So you're having to pay top 8 running back dynasty prices. But there's some guys that I would be willing to trade that I think a lot of people would be entertain the offer for Saquon just because of his age. I mean, if you had Travis Etienne and you're trying to compete, I would be looking to trade Travis Etienne for Saquon Barkley. Kenneth Walker, trade him for Saquon Barkley. Josh Jacob, trade him for Saquon Barkley. Now, you might not be able to get all those done. You might need to add like a small third, maybe a late second to get that deal done. But all those running backs, I do not like as much as Saquon Barkley over the next 2-year period where we can look at Saquon Barkley. And even if he doesn't land on the Giants long term, we look at Saquon Barkley and we can say he's going to be a workhorse running back. We've seen him be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, get all the touches, get the goal line work. Saquon Barkley is a guy I'm trying to buy everywhere. So go try to see what it's going to take to acquire Saquon Barkley today. My third player I'm trying to buy everywhere is Dalvin Cook. Now, Dalvin Cook, the rumors of him getting cut on June 1st. So I'm currently recording this on Tuesday. It's coming out on Thursday. So if Dalvin Cook is cut, then this take is absolutely irrelevant. But Dalvin Cook, if he gets cut on June 1st and lands with the Miami Dolphins, or if he stays with the Vikings, I am super excited for Dalvin Cook this season for fantasy football. Because yes, did he have a little bit more of a down year in 2021 compared to 2020, where he dropped 24 fantasy points per game, was the RB2, then 2021, 15.9 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB9, and then of course last season dropped all the way down to 14 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB14, whereas yards per carry have dropped every year. It went from 5 yards per carry to 4.7 to 4.4. That shouldn't scare us though with Dalvin Cook because he is getting older. But the thing that makes me super excited about Dalvin Cook is that he's still getting the rushing attempts. Primarily, he has been pretty healthy. We've got 14 games played, 13 games played, 17 games played. And last season only had 264 rushing attempts. Now, he had a little bit less rushing attempts, even though he was more healthy last season, purely based on the fact that the Vikings started to change their scheme. They weren't running the ball through him as much. They were throwing the ball a lot more to Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, when they added TJ Hawkinson, which is exciting for Dalvin Cook. If the Minnesota Vikings, like they had a great season last season, even if he replicates the same exact thing with 14 fantasy points per game, and you're able to go trade for Dalvin Cook. I've been able to get Dalvin Cook in startups in round 7, round 8. It gets me super excited for a guy like Dalvin Cook, who is RB31 on Keep Trade Cut. Now, I do know he is 27 years old. He's about to turn 28 this season. Is he going to be turning to dust here soon? Yes. But like we've been saying with a lot of these competing running backs, if they are turning to dust, this is the cheapest they're going to be. Because honestly, his production might be the same as someone in that top 15 Dynasty running back range, but you're having to pay RB31 prices. Go see what it's going to try to take to get Dalvin Cook. Understand it's going to be a year and a half of solid fantasy points per production from Dalvin Cook, but go see what it's going to take to get you some Dalvin Cook. I don't talk about this guy enough, but Derrick Henry is my next trade target. He's being treated as absolute dust in Dynasty Fantasy Football, even though year after year after year, he puts up solid fantasy football points production. We look at last year, 18.9 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB4 on points per game basis all last season. Year before that, 24.2. Year before that, 20.8. Now, is he getting used like an absolute dog? He is getting all the carries. He's getting all the touches, 349 rushing attempts this last year, even though he was a little bit inefficient on the ground with only 4.4 yards per carry. Yes. Are we a little bit concerned about his age because he's 29.4 years old? Yes. But like I've been saying in all my past videos, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, you will know that I'm a Derrick Henry lover because I'm saying Jerome Bettis, Emmitt Smith, some of these elite level running back prospects and running backs that have performed in the NFL, some of them are just built different. Some of them do not apply to the theory that, oh, once you get to 26, 27, all of a sudden you're dust. Like some of these guys can play to the age of 30, 31, 32 at a high level. Now, do I think that's necessarily Derrick Henry? I did not see this coming, but all those workout videos, he's ripped, he's jacked. They continue to feed him the ball. I'm excited for Derrick Henry. With the Titans looking to trade him this offseason, there were all the rumors that he was going to land with the Eagles. I was a little bit nervous, but when you're able to get Derrick Henry, he is the ultimate win now asset in Dynasty Fantasy Football. When you're able to get Derrick Henry as the RB18, but if he plays a full season, barring injury, which we can't predict injury, this man's going to end up in the top 5 this next season. So we're talking about guys, you could trade DeAndre Swift for Derrick Henry, a late 24 first, Dameon Pierce. Now, most people that have Derrick Henry, they are competing, so it's going to be hard to get him. But if there is a competing owner where you're able to offer a lesser running back, or maybe even quote unquote a more valuable running back and an extra piece, and you're getting Derrick Henry to go all out for a chip, Derrick Henry is someone that I'm trying to trade for on all my contending rosters right now. So go see what it's going to cost to get Derrick Henry. My final player we're going to be talking about today is James Conner. Now, James Conner, as everyone knows, is playing for the Arizona Cardinals with no hope that Kyler Murray is going to play this season. We are worried. Everyone's a little bit worried. But the best thing that happened to James Conner is the fact that the Arizona Cardinals did not add a single running back in the backfield. So we're talking about James Conner and Keontae Ingram. Now, Keontae Ingram, that'd be a good guy to go try to trade a late third for. Potential that if something happens to James Conner, Keontae Ingram gets slides in there. But James Conner, if we look at last season, 15.4 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB9. Year before that, 17.2 fantasy points per game, put him as the RB7. And the thing that was super impressive about last season is he didn't have the same touchdowns that he had in 2021. In 2021, he had 18 total touchdowns. Last season only had 8 total touchdowns, but he had 46 receptions. So my man is getting somewhere between 34 and 45 receptions a game. Now, add in the fact that Kyler Murray is going to be out and they're going to be starting some rookie or a Colt McCoy. All of a sudden, we're talking about James Conner having a lot more of a receiving upside in the backfield because if they're not able to throw the ball downfield, they got to move the ball somehow. So James Conner is someone that I'm targeting. Right now on Keep Trade Cut, we're talking about like James Conner as the RB40. Like we're talking like guys like Khalil Herbert, Antonio Gibson, Tank Bigsby, like all those guys. See you later. I'm trading for James Conner right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So go see what it's going to take to go get James Conner here today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here today. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.